So we've got two moms, two sets of sons, two sets of girlfriends, and everybody is still surviving. Cindy and Larry Deach are today. Now, I want you to get remember Cindy and Larry, because after I finish with the share today, you may be asking them if there is a Shady Acres rest for certain clergy who have gone off the beam after I finish with my share. Cindy will be more than glad to help you out. All right, good morning, everybody. Some other announcements very quickly. Next Sunday, Michelle is on. 3 Sundays in a row. 3 Sundays in a row today. The 14th, Michelle is on. And before next Sunday service at 10:15, the board will be meeting over the budget. Grant Santelier is singing again next Sunday. It is in honor of Martin Luther King's birthday. January 21st is the stated annual meeting, followed by Larry. Larry is on. So we've got Kenneth, Michelle, and Larry in January. Two other things. I did send out, and you need to know that there was no like, what do you do, Claus? I wanted you to know what I do. And I think that's a very, very fair question. People never know what ministers or professors do. They don't know a rabbi, an imam, a shaman, minister, pastor. Nobody knows. So I sat down yesterday and I write up what I do at All Souls. And I sent to you what I do so you could actually see what I do, how I spend my time. And that does not include, much to my horror, I have 3 packed world religion classes this semester, Monday and then Tuesday and Thursday. And it all started because of Barbara's husband. Bob was my first chair of the whole mess. And Bob looked at me and he said to me, we've got to figure out, this is true. Bob said, we've got to figure out how many complaints we can deal with before I have to call you into the office. And I remember when he retired, he said, I can't believe this. We've had no complaints. I don't know how. And I said, I don't know either. And we hugged each other and laughed. So we begin this morning then by asking you all to light a memorial candle. We've had a lot of innocent people die this week, everywhere. And I also want you to remember not just the Gaza Strip, not just Lebanon, not just the West Bank, but there are 2 places I bet everybody's forgotten, the Congo and Darfur, also in Africa. There are places all over this planet that have had a bad, bad week. So if you would light your memorial candles in honor of all of those who we do not know, who were innocent, kind, innocent people who perished. Keep them in our hearts always, every day and every week. And having said that, an African Alleluia, we've heard this group before, the Stellenbosch University from South Africa. Our first reading, and it's accidentally left off here, is by Charles Dickens from his very, very famous novel, A Tale of Two Cities. Though written in another time and another place, another era, it sounds like it was written this week. And I'm going to ask you to read it responsibly by reading the indented parts. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of infidelity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. And for those of you who would wish, if you'd read the following with me as a morning prayer. Fake Santas are now in a new gig. Camels have returned to the zoo. The creche has been dismantled. Nordic god trees are ready for recycling. Relatives have finally returned home. And now the real work of Christmas begins. To heal the sick, soothe the brokenhearted, care for the poor, do justice, do kindness, and to the walk humbly with the divine, daily and humbly, as best as we are able, remembering the birth. And special music from the birds. The ignorance about the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, is astounding. People often say, well, the God of the Hebrew Bible is judgmental. I'm thinking, you really don't know what you're talking about. That is one aspect. There are several portrayals of the divine in the Hebrew Bible. Job and Ecclesiastes represent a counterpoint, if you will. They were reform and reconstruction before reform and reconstruction existed. They take a very, very different point of view, and what we're going to read now reads like it too was written last week, just like A Tale of Two Cities introduction. This was written roughly 2,300 years ago. Nobody knows how it made it into the Hebrew Bible. It upset traditionalists tremendously. And here we go, asking Rowena if she'd be kind enough to read from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. Rowena, you have to unmute.
All right, try again. How's that?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
And for those of you who wish, if you read the responsive reading with me by reading the indented. Send your peace that our souls may radiate peace. Send your peace that we may think, act, and speak harmoniously. Send your peace that we may be grateful and thankful for the good there is in life. Send your peace that amidst our worldly strife, so that we can move to end strife between all peoples everywhere. Send your peace that we may endure and seek friendship with all in the spirit of your grace and mercy. Send your peace that our lives may become a divine vision, so in your light all darkness may vanish. Send your peace that we, your children, may all unite in one family. Amen.
Amen.
Barbara Young is going to be reading two very, very different writings from two very different authors at two very different times. Thank you, Barbara.
Whatever happens to you, don't fall in despair. Even if all the doors are closed, a secret path will be there for you that no one knows. You can't see it yet, but so many paradises are at the end of the path. Be grateful. It is easy to thank after obtaining what you want. Thank before having what you want. Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, 13th century Sufi poet. You may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all the world's problems at once. But don't ever underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Michelle Obama, First Lady of the United States, 2008 to 2016.
In 1972, I ran across this writing, and I have no idea, but this has stuck with me forever since. It is an obscure chapter in that enormous telephone book called Moby Dick. It's buried, this chapter. It's chapter number 49. You have to really look for it. And listen to this opening sentence. There are certain queer times and occasions in this strange mixed affair we call life when a man takes this whole universe for a vast practical joke, though the wit thereof he but dimly discerns, and more than suspects, that the joke is at nobody's expense but his own. Moby Dick, Herman Melville, the 19th century. We are going to try a little something different today. In defense of what we're going to try, my mind is to blame. I tried to explain this to Grimmy, the digit, and all he did was laugh. I had too much to do this week with classes and everything else, and I had too many ideas for it this morning, and having too many ideas is just as bad as having no ideas at all. So Saturday morning at 1:15 in the morning, I woke up and my brain said, yes. And my other part of the brain said, don't you dare. And so this is what we're going to do. You can call Cindy and Larry to find out if there's a Shady Acres rest home for fried brains in the area. Go ahead, Digit, pull it up. Oh, maybe he doesn't have it. We're saved. All right, everybody, are we ready? Some totally unproven observations. Yes, you've got that. This is known as honesty. Some totally unproven observations as we begin another year. We have a boiling planet, as you well know. We have wars and assassinations all over the place. We have forgotten Congo and Darfur. We have got all kinds of wild people in Congress doing absolutely wild things, including offering to punch each other out. One of our most sanctimonious Congress women got caught groping and vaping in a movie, whatever it was. The United States Senate is holding up all kinds of, we had a senator holding up 300 appointments to the U.S. military. And this is a conservative, we love our country person. Yes. You ask the following about American people. This is no joke. Are you ready for this, everybody? One of the following four is correct. One of the four is. There is a high crime rate. There's high inflation. I wish I could read my own writing. There is high unemployment, and everybody is exhausted. Only one of those is correct. Number one, there is no high crime rate in the United States today, right now. Number two, there is no high inflation. It's true.
Everybody is exhausted.
Huh? Yes, you got it. Exhausted. Everybody is exhausted. So, some ideas about where we're going to go and what the problem is. Are you ready, everybody? Number one, we don't know as much about our people as we think we do. Here's some information about the United States. Are you aware that 97% of our country is rural? 97% of the United States of America is rural. Almost all of our population is on the eastern seaboard, the western seaboard, and down the Mississippi River. Other than that, it is a vast expanse of unoccupied land. 60 million residents, that's it. 60 million residents occupy this vast, huge expanse of land. Here's some more interesting data about our country that most people are not aware of. 13% of our population has never left the state in which they were born. 54% have never traveled more than 10 states in our country. 40% of our population has never left the United States. Are you aware of that? Does that give you some clue about the way people think? 62% of this country is not college educated. Now, let me be very clear about this. I'm not big on college education as being the be-all and end-all. Let's be very, very clear about that. One of the things I'm trying to say is there are vast expanses of people and land who have different different viewpoints and different ways of looking at the world. And I don't think we appreciate just how varied that is authentically. In Miami-Dade County, if you go down to parts of the Redland, and talk to farmers and meet farmers who are not part of Brickell Avenue or part of Miami Beach, or part of Coral Gables, with all due respect to Coral Gables, you're going to get two different world points of view. Two very, very different world views. One isn't right and one isn't wrong, but they're different. They are very, very, very different. And one of the things I think everybody's going to agree on, there's nothing more annoying than somebody who thinks they are entitled because of their education or because they're making a big income, and they assume that entitles them to know everything and to have kind of an attitude about it all. There are people who work with their hands who have a very, very good common sense attitude about life, and I think we tend to forget that. There's a very famous quote: you can get straight A's in life and flunk, you can get straight A's and flunk life. Walker Percy in the 1930s said that. You can get straight A's and flunk life. I have met auto mechanics. I've met farmers. I've met people who work with their hand, who've had a minimum education, who have a very, very good common sense of what's going on around them. I've met people who have from college. I've met people who have doctorates. I've met people with high-paying educational jobs. And I'm thinking, you have no more idea of common sense than the man in the moon. When I was in, I think Gail and Tom probably have forgotten this, but when I was in Port Orange, I went to visit Western Volusia County, and the farmers were shocked that somebody from Port Orange would come all the way out to meet them and see what actually the farming is like in Western Volusia County. I got a totally different point of view than, hello, Daytona Beach, here we come, automobiles, springtime, and everything else. I got to meet an incredible group of farmers, planters, and workers. Totally different view of life, totally different view of things. One isn't right and wasn't wrong, but I think in the United States, we become so divided, we tend to forget that there are lots of people in this country who very legitimately grow up in different spots geographically, different areas educationally, with different points of view that are authentic. And I think we tend to forget that. And I'm looking at this, and I did not know that 97% of the United States is rural. I did not know that 40% of the people have never left our country. I did not know that 54% have only traveled 10 states or less. I did not know that 13% of the people in this country have never left the state in which they were born. That's going to give you a certain worldview. Here's one for you. I also was surprised at how much rural America is not as religious as I thought. This came as a big shock. Only 30%, 32% of rural America is evangelical Protestant. You and I get all the media, but I started digging into the media. You and I hear about the Southern Baptist Convention all the time. Guess what? The Southern Baptist Convention has lost millions of members in the last 8 years. Millions. The number of people in the Southern Baptist Convention, 30 years and under, is only 8% of their entire denomination. The average Southern Baptist Convention member is 57 and white. You may have read about the great split in the Methodist Church. That great split took place in Texas and the southern part of the United States. The average size of the congregation is 30 to 50 members, and it's white and old. Does not represent anywhere near the demographics of Texas itself or the southern parts of the United States. All I'm trying to say is I don't think we really understand our country. I don't think we understand that all the hospitals that have been closed, the brain drain, the doctor drain, the hospital drain, and the stress that goes on, and a lot of anger that people feel legitimately. And I'll tell you right now, if I were living in one of those areas in Georgia or Mississippi where big money bought a hospital, and since the hospital wasn't making money, big money closed it down, and that meant I had to go 2 or 3 hours to get to a hospital, and people I knew died because they couldn't get there in time, and it was preventable, I would be angry as all get out. And when I try to talk to somebody and they give me this upper Northeast accent, as if they know everything and they're not really listening to what I'm trying to say, I would be angry too. Just some thoughts. I don't really think we understand our country. I really, really don't. Number two, I think we're in denial about our species. I say this again and again and again, and I get this all the time. Why is there a Putin? Why did Putin invade Ukraine? Why do we get somebody like Trump? Why do we have this guy in Hungary running around screaming? Why do we get this guy in Turkey? Why did that guy just got elected in Argentina? Has anybody ever studied who we are? We are, I'm going to scream it out loud, 98.9% chimpanzee. It has been proven over and over and over again. Have you ever studied primatology? No. Because if you had, it would all make sense. It's scary. Who runs the troop in a basic group of chimps? Educated, fine, peace-loving, studied chimpanzees? No. The male bully. You ought to study Primatology 101. And what do chimps do? Big troops of chimps attack smaller groups of chimps for their land. They will kill off the young males. They will rape the females and eat the babies. It's Primatology 101. By the way, some of you women want to know, why do you see males on the football team slap other males in the butt? That's very strange behavior. Watch what males do to other males in the troop. They slap each other all over inappropriately. You ought to see, why is it when the President of the United States walks down to give the State of the Union, all these people have to touch their shoulder? Watch the bully male in a troop. Everybody has to touch them, touch them, touch them, touch them. If we studied Primatology 101, we would understand a lot of the behavior that goes on. But no, we're in denial. We are in such denial about our species. Somehow we think, I love this. Let me read to you a psalm that gets tremendous mileage. Psalm 8, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars you have established, what are humans that you are mindful of them? Mortals that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than angels. What angels were they talking about? I would like to know, because these are angels I don't want to meet. Because these kinds of angels kill people, attack people that are smaller than them. You ought to read what troops of chimpanzees do. Have you ever looked, by the way, has anybody ever stood next to a chimpanzee, a full-grown chimpanzee? I'm just curious. If you've ever stood next to a full-grown chimp, there is one word to describe our species: puny. You ought to see the size of a full-grown chimp. They are big, solid, and strong. It's scary. Imagine a troop of these, 30 to 50, enraged and attacking. So I don't think we know much about our country. I don't think we know much about our species. And I don't think we know much about our cosmos. And the reason I'm going with these unproven observations, because I've got a place where we're trying to make sense of 2023 as we slide into 2024. How many of you know much about our cosmos? Because I just got overwhelmed. You ready? Astronomers, now I hope you're going to enjoy this. This is funny. It's funny. It's scary too. Have identified 6 massive galaxies from the infancy of the universe. How can you have a massive series of galaxies from the infancy of the universe, along with massive black holes? This is like Judy and Rick having said to me, they just gave birth 3 years ago and introducing me to their children who are now 50 with children and grandchildren. You said, that doesn't make any sense. How could you give birth 3 years ago and have a 50-year-old children and grandchildren? This is what they found. Massive galaxies, massive black holes from 500 million years after the Big Bang. The astronomers have said, what happened? We got that all wrong. We obviously don't know how galaxies are formed. We don't obviously know anything about the Big Bang that we thought was right. Here's another one. I hope you're going to like this too. Have any of you ever paid any attention, and I haven't, to a thing called the Perseus Galaxy Cluster. Do any of you know that? You can see it at night. All right. The European Union sent up a Euclid telescope 6 months ago. And the Perseus Galaxy Cluster, you can see it's really, really bright. And much to their shock, this is what they found. Are you ready for this? By accident, they found 1,000 galaxies in front of this thing and several hundred galaxies behind it. That means in front of this galaxy cluster were 100,000 galaxies in front and hundreds of thousands behind it. Galaxies. Now, to make this a little bit better for us, the closest galaxy to the Milky Way is a dwarf galaxy. And it would take you and I, are you ready for this? It would take you and I 749 million years to reach it. Did you hear that? It would take us 749 million years to reach it. Yes. Evidently, you and I do not need to worry. Our Milky Way is going to merge with and collide with the Andromeda Galaxy. I don't know if you know anything about galaxies. I did not. You've heard of the Andromeda Galaxy. Here's one for you. The diameter of the Andromeda Galaxy is 152,000 light years. And just to help you out, a light year is 5.7 trillion miles. Do we understand our cosmos at all? Does anybody understand our cosmos? A light year is 5.7 trillion miles. 1 light year. I'm lost. Finally, do we get the things happen in cycles? Everybody this year is upset. Is any of this new? Tom Friedman has been writing in the New York Times for a very long time. And he wrote this past week in the New York Times. He said, when I started writing, a lot of bad decisions were made. And then I noticed in politics. Then he said about 10 years later, a lot of good decisions were made. Then a lot of bad decisions. He said, things go in cycles. And we do not seem to understand or want to get the fact that the bad guys are never going to win always, and the good guys are never going to win always, that things go in cycles. So it seems to me that if Grimmy would go back to this again, we have 4 things that we just don't get. And because we don't get them, we cause ourselves a tremendous amount of pain. We don't know our country very much at all. We really, really don't. We don't know what people think. We don't know the frustrations they have. Over 300 rural hospitals closed. I keep mentioning that in the United States because they didn't make money. And the big money that ran them could have cared less about all the people that were dispossessed because of that. We don't know what people think in this country. We don't realize it's 97% rural. We're in denial about our species, and that is a biggie. The cosmos is totally incomprehensible to us. 5.7 trillion miles is 1 light year. I don't think any of us understand what that means. And we don't seem to get cycles. Things go in cycles. And they've been going in cycles for a very long time. Now, what do we do with all this? I think we go to helps. And I have some helps for us. And if Grimmy would pull those down for us, some helps. Number 1, I think that you and I really, really, really need to grow up. Me too. And we need to learn the lessons of the externals. We need to learn more about who we are as a people. We need to take seriously the limitations of our species. We need to realize that our planet is really not a big, it's this tiny little thing. And as a species, we ain't much. And we need to realize that things go around and around and around. You may win the day, but guess what? You're going to lose the next 2 days and come back and win it again. There is, however, for us, in every religion, in every philosophy, available helps. Everywhere you go, there are things to help us. They are good. They are free. They generally say the same thing, and they work to provide what you need. Regardless of the cycle we are in, what has gone wrong, and yes, you've been misunderstood again, and yes, your dog gets it and you don't, Here are some cycles some things I'd like you to look at. Pull them up, Grimmy, if you would. Number one, I think it is an absolute hoot that the best help right off the bat comes from Mick Jagger. By heaven, did you ever see Mick Jagger sing? Mick Jagger weighs like about 10 pounds. He looks like somebody you'd arrest from a homeless thing. I saw him singing this song, the first recorded thing on YouTube. And I thought, what is that? Listen to the words, though. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if sometimes, well, you might just find you get what you need. Ah, isn't that annoying? But it's true. It's true. You can't always get what you want. Do you think everything we want is important? But you might get what you need. Oh, that is so annoying. Richard Orloff gives us prayers. Let me pull this up. I hope we can all read this daily. I sent this to you. What a way to begin the day. Boy, talk about getting rid of the ego. Thank you for this day. May I be aware of all of its blessings. May I notice each moment of love. May I appreciate each breath. May I see beyond my fears. May I recognize beauty. May I receive each morsel of joy offered. May I absorb kindness. May I not sabotage the happiness of myself or others. For the blessings of this day, I give thanks in advance. Today is an opportunity. The miracle of every moment. Ha ha. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you need. But if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. Pull up the last page, Grimmy. There are tons of things out there in all religions. Christianity, I'm not sure why it has done this, but there's so many parts of Christianity that are full of love, and all you and I do is seem to get battered with the judgmental bad sides and the dark sides. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus offers this kind, fascinating idea. The realm of the divine is within you and around you. Sounds like Orloff's prayer. When you come to know who you are, you will see you are all part of the divine. What a way to acknowledge the beginning of the day and to end the day. Opportunities. Opportunities. And a way to end the day. Let's pull this up so everybody can look at this again. May I acknowledge the blessings of this day and of my life. May I absorb the blessings of this day and of my life. May I always have access to the wisdom gained today and use these blessings tomorrow. May I share these blessings with others, one love at a time, till love blossoms into a field of joy covering the earth. I'm going to read that one more time, a morning prayer and an evening prayer. Thank you for this day. May I be aware of all of its blessings. May I notice each moment of love. May I appreciate each breath. May I see beyond my fears. May I recognize beauty. May I receive each morsel, oh, that's so beautiful, of joy offered. May I absorb kindness. This is one for all of us. May I not sabotage the happiness of myself and others. For the blessings of this day, I give thanks in advance. You can't always get what you want, but if sometimes you try, you may just get what you need. And for that, I am deeply, deeply thankful. May I always have access to the wisdom gained today and use these blessings tomorrow. And may I share my blessings with others, one love at a time, till love blossoms into a field of joy covering the earth. What a way to have to live amongst all this stuff. Bless you all as we begin 2024. Amen. It is important amongst us to remind that people are welcome. And more important than welcoming is to affirm people, to let them know you are welcome and affirmed as who and what you are. There is and always has been a lot of judgmentalism, a lot of hate, a lot of separating out of people. At All Souls, we want to join all those other congregations across everywhere that take time to welcome and affirm. And we do that symbolically by offering from ancient times a bread and cup. Going way, way back, probably to the 10th century BCE, when the elements of wheat were harvested, you took flat bread, and to the stranger you offered some bread and watered down wine, and you said, welcome. Come in and recline and welcome. That has been passed down and passed down and passed down. And so we too welcome and affirm all and say, welcome home, be affirmed with us. And as is our case, we turn to the little children to guide us, and I ask you to repeat after me the following. Promise me you'll remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrows, sun without rain. But the divine did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. And a concluding prayer from Andrea, we would read it together, those who wish. In the beauty and the stillness of this day, which we all keep in our own way, may peace be in your heart, joy in your movements, faith in your breathing, and hope in your presence. Let us all be a wordless prayer of joyful dance and song, hailing the future, hailing creation, Selah. A final blessing. And now may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and may the rains fall softly upon your fields. And when we meet again, may the divine in me greet and embrace the divine in you. In peace, let us go. Amen. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Digit. Thank you, Rick and Judy. Thank you for reading, Barbara. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Gail and Tom. Happy New Year. Thank you, Nanette. Thank you for reading, Rowena.
Oh, Nanette.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Daniel, Maureen, Sarah from Alabama, Packing Care. Thank you, Pam, Cindy and Larry, and Amelia. Thank you, thank you, thank you much. A lot of you are hosting friends and people, and good to see you all. Thank you much. Michelle is on next week, and Grant will be singing. And after that, Larry is on the 21st. By the way, I need to let you know, Gail and Tom are responsible for introducing me to Larry. And they'll be embarrassed about that, but it's true. And I will never be able to thank them enough. So if you want to know how we got to know Larry, it's Gail and Tom right there who are now, oh, Tom's turning red. I've never seen Tom blush. This is worth it. I've known Tom since forever. I've never seen him blush. This was worth it. But what a great Gail. I will remember this forever. Happy New Year to you all. Be safe and well. Be safe and well.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Year.
Giving us another
Bye,
epiphany.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year. Have a great week.
You
All
too.
right. See you at Connection.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay.
Connections this week. Connections this week. That is true.
Yes, we will be there.
All right. All right. Patrick Care has too much hair. I've got to talk to her about that.
Thank you for giving another epiphany.
Bye.
Yes.
Hello,
Bye.
hello, Nanette, where I understand it's rather cool.
Yes, the sky is as white as the ground is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I stopped in at the knitting store yesterday. I've got my knitting projects all ready to go for the rest of the, however long it's going to be that I'm inside.
Mark,
Sounds good.
be safe, everybody. Be safe and well. Pat, when do the kids leave?
Let's see. Emmy leaves on Wednesday. Gregory is here until Saturday.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, I was hoping to see them, but they're swamped. They've got a whole thing mapped out.
They're going to the King Mango Strut
I
Parade
know
today.
they're
after
done.
picking
Tell them I
up
said
friends.
logo, if you would.
I will.
Tell them
I
I'll
will.
catch them next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
Karen, good luck to the first week of school this week.
What time does the
Thank
parade
you.
start at? Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
What time does the parade start at?
What kind of what?
The parade.
Oh, the
It's at
King
2
Mango
p.m.
Strut. I don't know. It's some weird Miami
2.
thing that I've actually never been
Yeah,
to, but
that's what I
big.
thought.
I don't know if it's like a.
It's fantastic. If you can
It's
go.
2 p.m., Nick. Nick, Karen says it's 2 p.m.
Yes.
2
Yes.
p.m.
2
I
p.m.
miss it. I miss it.
That's Miami time, of course.
Never been
Yes.
there.
Well said.
I might just drive off over there and be like, hey, let's go.
Feliz
It's hard
años
to
de
get
los
parking.
Tres Reyes también.
We'll take the bus.
Okay. You want to get down?
Okay.
Right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Hey, Donald, can we speak? Once everybody's